What's up? That was so ridiculous. What's up, Patreon subscribers? This is Overtime with Mike and JD. I'm your host, Mike Gilbert. I'm joined as always by JD Oliva, and man, we're also joined by a very special guest, Maximania, apparently.
Let me tell you something, brother. I went through the righteous. I went through the Bullet Club Gold. Now I'm going to chew up everyone in the AEW roster and spit them out because it's all about me, brother. God, I hate this program.
Tell me something, Tofu, Tony. Sorry.
We got a friend of, we have a group and a friend of ours texted me that he's like, hey, with your Photoshop skills, do you think you could do a Max's Hulk Hogan thing? And we had parent teacher conferences today, and between conferences, I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that. So I actually had to recolor his pants. Like those were actually purple. So I had to do some stuff. And it's just stupid looking. I'm looking around. I'm like, this is so stupid. I'm actually most proud of the Maximania thing because I actually had to refigure that of the Hulkamania one. So, for about 20 minutes.
With Photoshop, my wife knows how to use Photoshop really well because she's a photographer, and she can recognize print or whatever and delete whatever word is on there and then type over it a new word, which she tried showing me, but I just could not figure it out.
That's actually one of the funnest things about my job is I teach kids how to use Photoshop. So, I tell them, I said, if you come out with nothing more than this class, you should be able to make the dankest memes of anyone you know. So that always gets a reaction from the kids.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're not watching the YouTube video right here on the Patreon, JD made a Maximania logo. So whenever I tweet out the audio, this is gonna be what I use. I'm gonna use Maximania. Why we were doing this is because we're off this Thursday. We're not going to work on Thanksgiving. So we wanted to record something special for Patreon. So we were just going to do a Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame show because the selectees were out. And then we got to talking and this Maximania joke popped up. I was like, well, we should at least, we'll get into some AEW stuff, but we JD loved this Maximania thing so much. Like, yeah, we just got to start off with just the photo of it. It's so fucking great.
That's for our buddy who will go nameless just to not get him in trouble. Will appreciate the meme. So Tony Khan went and burnt his promotion to the ground this weekend. So you got to kind of cover that. I didn't know it at the time because I went live on our feed. Like I just had to, because I was with you guys and I said on the show I was pretty I talked to our buddy Jeremy Finestone, new Patreon supporter Jeremy Finestone.
Yes. Welcome, Jeremy, and welcome Brent Randall too. Thank you, Brent, for joining the club.
Really appreciate that. But Jeremy's like, you're pretty hot, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm emotional, like when I'm either really into something or I'm really not into something, and I didn't hear the Tony Khan. This is the first time I ever didn't listen to one of their press conferences. The last two have been so superfluous that this time around, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, none of them are going to ask the real questions. No one's going to say, so why did you turn down? Like, well, how far along did you get with the CW? What was the details in that? No one's going to ask, hey man, you've had a dramatic shift in your program over the last few months and it started to affect ratings and ticket sales. How do you feel about it? Like nobody does that. And again, it goes back to that argument that we had online a couple of weeks ago where the wrestling media, they just want to play volleyball. Right? They don't actually want to cover wrestling like a real sport. Jim Valley asked some real questions and then asked a real stupid one just to make fun of everybody there, which I really appreciated. His one to Julia Hart about the mist. Yeah. Right. I thought that was funny. I don't know, man. Like I'm not as uptight as I was, which kind of bothers me because I feel like I'm starting to slide into apathy. And when I slide into apathy, then I'm just not going to care anymore. And I feel like a lot of people are going in the same direction when it comes to AEW.
Yeah. So, I was trying to find the clip, but for some reason it's not on Twitter right now of Tony saying that. That was what's that?
I wonder why.
Yeah. So maybe all the websites pulled it down, but Voices of Wrestling, they don't have the audio, but they do have the actual quote. He says, this is from Tony, right? Talking about the Continental Classic. He said, I think that if people want to see the sports-based presentation in every match, there's 33 matches in the Continental Classic, so get ready, strap in, get ready. Every Wednesday and Saturday, the same people who don't want to see any outside interference, I'm not BSing, I'm dead serious. If you don't want to see any outside interference, if you want to see straight wrestling at its very best in a great field, then put your money where your effing mouth is. Wednesdays and Saturdays, I expect to see you strapped in because we're going to put on the best wrestling tournament with some great matches. He's kind of like, so maybe he didn't mean it this way, and maybe we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know.
I'm not.
Okay, yeah, no, let's not. So it just kind of seems like, it kind of seems like he's like blaming the fans for getting mad at his television show, and instead of trying to improve it, he's like, well, here, because you guys are complaining, I'm just going to do this. So, now you guys have to come because I'm doing this for you, right? I'm doing this as a result of all your complaining.
If Tony, I think it was Chris Samza in our Voices of Wrestling Slack earlier today said, and this is a great quote, if Tony Khan believed that a G1 style tournament could draw on his TV show, he would have done it by now.
Yeah.
So he clearly doesn't see anything. He thinks he's throwing us a bone. And he goes, I'll tell you what, no interference, which just means that every fucking match they do now has interference. Everything they do has some kind of a fuck finish, has some kind of a schmaz. Like they're cutting backstage with the wrestlers watching on the screens. Like it's so WWE'd right now. It's ridiculous. And like, let's be honest, like point the fingers, like Pat Buck, the Creative Pro guy who trains wrestlers with really stupid gimmicks. Mm-hmm. Let us not forget Chris Statlander, the alien.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah. Honestly. And this maybe this isn't her fault because she was a young kid when she went there and she did the alien gimmick to get herself on a TV. For me, like in me watching as a fan, like she's never come back from that for me. Like I just like she took off for a while. She had that knee surgery. She came back and everybody was all about her. I looked at her, I was like, I'm not interested. And that was maybe like me still holding a grudge against her for being a nose booping alien. But that's still for some reason that's all I see out of her.
Because it's shindy, stupid shit, right? And it got over in the meme culture era of the indies, when like the early 2020s, when that stuff was, when the indies were basically strip mined of all the talent and all that was left was the meme guys, right? Yeah. So she was doing that stuff, and it's freaking pathetic. Like these are the guys that are in the room right now telling them what to do, and like. We've had to, like, we watched Max do his Hulk Hogan. We watched Max do his Steve Austin. Like, I jokingly asked about what everybody thought of AEW Uncensored last week because it reminded me of Savage and Hogan defeating the Dungeon of Doom and the Four Horsemen and the Triple Cage. I mean, like, this company is it's become Max's vanity project. And it's not a fun show to watch. And he can come to the podium crying and trying to put on his little crocodile tears thing so people are nice to him because he doesn't like himself. But in reality, I don't like him. Yeah. Like I don't like him as a creative. He could be a really nice guy in person. I'm pretty sure he's not, but I'm tired of him on my TV screen. I'm over it, man. Like, and then this is the first time I actually made a meme and I was like, I just kind of feel bad because I bet this person's going to take it like to heart. And then I went, screw him. And I kept going.
Sometimes you really do need negative feedback sometimes. When people are mean about it, that's typically not helpful, and no. I have ventured over into the being mean at times. And honestly, that's part of being a podcaster. You want to be entertaining. And sometimes you say, kind of off the top of your head, like you say, oh, well, maybe I really didn't appreciate that. But when you're a podcast, you're like, oh, that effing sucked. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you got to kind of go for the jugular sometimes just to be entertaining. What I saw with Max on Full Gear, from 0 Hour and the whole storyline to get him to be the returning conquering hero for the main event, it was WCW like 99. Right. To where like, okay, the house is still full. We're doing BOGO tickets. So that's tough. Right. But the house is still full. Ratings aren't in the toilet. Right. The ratings are still holding up with the exception of the weekend programming, Friday night and Saturday night programming, but Dynamite's still holding up strong. Right. But we're starting to see like a chink in the armor. Right. Or like there's a slow leak happening. Right, with their success, and it all kind of centers around this one guy right now. It's like Max, it's like Pat, and Pat Buck trained Max, so naturally Pat Buck is in a position of power, right? And then you got Jimmy Jacobs, who is essentially Tony's right hand man. So he's doing a lot of the stuff that we don't like, and then of course all the Max stuff that conquers the show. That guy just has so much power, and I just don't understand it. Like so. we didn't get to it because we were listening to John, and John was so great on the podcast last week. He was awesome, and I didn't really want to ruin that with my bullshit. So I just wanted to let John go, you know, and a lot of people appreciated it. But I did have a theory that, you know, this hokey shit that they're doing, the WWE stuff, I think they think it's going to get them into a new TV deal. I think they think that that's what TV executives want. And maybe that's the feedback that they've gotten, right? I mean, what got them into the space to begin with was being the alternative. But now I think they think that to get to that next level, they got to do Timeless Tony. They got to do kangaroo kicks. They got to do like one of the worst like pay-per-view storylines I've ever seen in my life, which is, you know, like Max getting hurt on the pre-show with a bum leg, goes to the hospital, and then he gets replaced by a guy who just had surgery. Like right there, that's a non-starter. And I'm like, who in the room thought that was a good idea? Whoever that was should be fired. Unfortunately, Tony can't fire him himself. Yeah, but everybody went along with it. And that's the problem, right? Like the emperor has no clothes. They're like, oh no, it has to be Adam. Now, okay, now check this out. And I was just like thinking of like, okay, what could they have done to actually make this a little bit better? It'd be difficult. But if they put Samoa Joe in the Adam Cole spot, and then by the time then maybe they attack Samoa Joe before the match starts, and then Max comes out for the match, maybe that's better. But Adam Cole being in the spot never made any sense to begin with. Like the whole thing sucked, but Adam Cole being there just made zero sense.
Dave had an interesting theory that this is me. Dave thought that a lot of people had a negative view of the show because of the angle, because the angle loomed over the show. It wasn't an enticing angle. It was an angle that made a lot of people upset. And I'm one of them. I'm the first to admit this. I was more concerned with tweeting out bad jokes and frustrating takes than I was paying attention to most of the matches. Right? Because this specter loomed over the show, and it really killed my enjoyment. Like and it's a lot of it is the bad acting. Like a lot of it is just the nonsensical developments. Like this is a company that's had one cancels matches all the time when one guy can't go. Two has interim champions. People bitch about the interim champions all the time, right? So why couldn't Jay White be the interim champion? He already has a belt. You know what I'm saying? Like because they wanted to make Max the hero, because Max had to stroke himself off and live out his Steve Austin childhood fantasies in front of all of us. Like, it's just the weirdest thing to me. This really feels like a child's wrestling promotion right now. Like Max is booking himself the way like a little kid would book himself. Right? That a kid who grew up on a steady diet of 90s WWE television.
And then we're seeing the booker put his childhood heroes on TV every single week as well, right? And now I like the way I've always liked the way he's used Sting. I think the Sting usage has been great. And I'll be honest, you know, I have not been that impressed with Adam Copeland on AEW, and I feel like this is one of those hires. But I like that trios match from the pay-per-view.
I was going to say, I actually think that Copeland has changed up enough of what he is presentation wise. Like, because we said on the show that he's going to have to not be Edge.
Yeah.
And I think he slowly started to evolve the character a little bit. I liked the entrance. I liked his performance. I think this program with him and Christian is working. Like, I think it's been fine. Is he going to be a main event draw? No. But I mean, like, they're overpaying for him. But I don't think there's so many more problems in this company right now than Adam Copeland.
And that's why he's so under the radar. He hasn't moved the needle one bit, and he didn't in WWE either. And I think AEW has found out the hard way. They overpaid for him because he's it's like a childhood hero, right? And I understand it. I don't think it's the smartest move, but hey, it's not my money. He's a billionaire. Let him fucking blow his money. That's no big deal. But I have not been. I'm not like I just don't care about him. It's like if you're telling me Edge is on or Adam Copeland's on the show this week, I'm just like, okay. But then when I watch him, I was like, oh yeah, he's still pretty good. But like when he was on the pay-per-view, I honestly forgot that he had the match on the pay-per-view. They opened the show and I was like, oh wow, this is really good. And then I go back to just not caring. It's one of the weirdest things. Like I don't know how to explain it.
I think the best way I can describe Adam Copeland is he's been fine.
Yeah.
He's been fine. Yeah. Like of the problems this promotion has, Adam Copeland is far down the list to me. I'll tell you something though. It seems to be, and like I've heard this, I think Paul Fontaine in the old Fight Game Media Discord said, they're changing their product to appeal to more WWE fans in an effort to grow. And I said, Paul, that is not happening right now. In fact, the opposite is happening. And then he brought this up because he's the ratings guy. Did you see what Collision drew this past Friday against SmackDown?
I saw that it didn't do good, and then I saw that it did worse than Rampage.
Are you ready? Are you ready for the number?
Yeah.
180,000 viewers.
Jesus.
So let me lay this out for you. You have gone out of your way to make your program more appealing to WWE fans, when you used to make your show different to appeal to other wrestling fans who might be disenfranchised with WWE. 2 years ago when this happened, when they met on cable, AEW won against SmackDown. It was close, but AEW won in the demo. SmackDown won in total viewers. You can't call it anything but more than a win. Now again, they were going to get killed anyway. SmackDown's on broadcast. They're on cable. But you're presenting a program that is openly inviting WWE fans to come watch. Well, WWE fans have multiple times this quarter, have told you we would rather watch WWE. So rather than take the data, because Tony's is supposed to be this big data-driven guy, rather than take the data he's presented, he's steering even harder into being more like WWE.
Yeah, and doing it up against SmackDown is pretty stupid, because if I want to watch WWE shit, I'll just watch WWE.
That's the problem. That's the problem. And we've been saying this for weeks, is that the harder, and dude, we've been bitching about this for weeks, and they haven't, like, they're like, well, we're giving you this tournament. But bro, you gave me, you made me pay $50 for a 30-year-old episode of Raw.
Yeah.
That's what we watched. They booked a 30-year-old episode of Raw. I mean, I could have told you what happened. I've seen Raw, right? And it's not working. Now, you brought up a great point that I hadn't considered. Is this from David Zaslav? David Zaslav's a terrible judge of what works.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's getting eviscerated in the creative community, right? Because there's actually a movement. I don't know if you've heard this. There's actually a movement among Hollywood producers to not work with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, well, because the Wile E. Coyote movie, and which one was it? Batgirl. They finished the movies, and to save money on taxes, they're just not going to put them out.
Because they can file a loss. So, and again, this is a business. Hollywood is business where a lot of things you work on never see the light of day. Like I think it's like 3% of scripts written will be filmed. Yeah. But it's very different. This is the case, right? And they're telling you, oh, we're just not going to release this weekend. And now they're starting to backtrack, and they're trying to sell stuff more. But I mean, now, because they're literally, the producers are saying, you know what, we're just not going to work with Warner Brothers with this guy, because like there's no guarantee that our work. And again, as a creator, you create things so that they're seen. So this Zaslav guy, he was really good at booking like Home and Garden TV. What a wrestling show. But I mean, like, as far as like real creative endeavors, his instincts are god fucking awful. So is it possible that he has told Tony, your show needs to be more like WWE, and he's a fucking dipshit, and Tony's just kind of going along with the flow of things? That's possible. I hadn't considered that before, Mike.
Yeah. And people are talking, like, there's no like media members out there that are saying this, but it's like Twitter, that Dolph Ziggler is like on AEW's radar. Ronda Rousey was on Ring of Honor this past weekend, and I'm like the last of the dying breed of still being a Ronda Rousey fan. I think it's just because I loved her MMA fights so much. I used to like she was like one of the few people that I would actually spend my own money to watch. Like if I would go to like pay to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or like a casino to go watch her, or I just buy the pay-per-view at my house. Like, so she was a megastar, and just such a big fan of hers. And I just felt like WWE misused her, but AEW fans are crapping all over that lady. And now they brought her into Ring of Honor. I don't know that she's coming to AEW. It might have been just like, hey, she's in California, wants to work with her friends, type of deal.
That's kind of what Dave said. And he was like, if Tony was going to use her, he wouldn't have just thrown her on Ring of Honor. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that door's open now, right? So Like Ronda was there. The rumors are about Dolph Ziggler. There's still there's been rumors that Sheamus's deal with WWE is going to be coming up, and he's going to be a high-priced veteran that you're not going to get a return on investment. So I think WWE might cut him loose, a la Rory McDonald from the UFC. So, and Benson Henderson, he's like one of those type tiered guys. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see Tony being able to pass him up. And then you're going to keep bringing these guys in, and then what do you got? You got, episodes of Raw, right? And that's what they're going to try to sell to Warner Brothers Discovery. It's like, hey, look, they got Raw over here, but we got Raw right here, and you get it for half the price.
Which is so odd, because when this company was a success, they were actively going out of their way to be different than Raw. When they were selling out arenas legitimately. Like, and you could throw Wembley at me all you want, but they sold that thing without knowing a fucking match. So you can't tell me the Brochachos sold that thing out, because they didn't. Right.
Yeah.
The idea of AEW in the UK sold that out. But look what's going on here.
Look at the private chat real quick. Check our private chat real quick. Yeah.
I didn't realize we
on StreamYard. On StreamYard. I'm trying to to signal you. No. I sent one to you.
I got you. Okay. I was setting you up for this. So Tony Khan asked us to put our money where our mouth is. Hey, I'm going Dynamite's in Chicago. I haven't missed Dynamite before Thanksgiving. I'm an AEW fan, believe it or not. I'm going. And the show is, and I wasn't thinking about not going, but then they offered to buy one, get one. And BOGO Max sold me on it. Told me to put my money in my mouth. Is BOGO Max. You got it done, brother. I got one. Me and my kid, me and Andy are going to go to the show, and we're going to pay half what we paid last time. And there's going to be, right now, there's like half the people that were there in June in Chicago. I couldn't go to All Out 2021. I'm sorry, no, I couldn't go to All Out 2019. I went 21. It was sold out in minutes in Chicago. Mm-hmm. All Out, the original, the biggest independent pro wrestling show ever. They owned this fucking town. Survivor Series is coming here over the weekend. Sold out. 15,000 people in the Allstate Arena. AEW, hey, Max keeps telling us he's a generational talent. He sure is. He's the only champion in AEW history that you have to give away tickets to go see. Great job, guys. You're doing an awesome job with your territory. Me and my kid Mark are going to go check it out this week.
He's the most fan-friendly champion that there's ever been in AEW history. Yeah, because the tickets are much cheaper with him as champion.
Yeah. I mean, Tony's telling me to put my money where my mouth is. He won't announce who's in this C2 tournament. Because God forbid you tell the fans what show you're going to watch. Vince didn't do that in 1998, so we can't do that now, right? But again, hey, I should thank them. I should thank Tony for cutting his prices in half. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. That's so thoughtful on this glorious holiday season. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that you guys can't sell tickets anymore. The only shame is we're not getting Mystico.
Yeah, that would be nice. But if they did get Mystico, would probably, you probably wouldn't be able to get all those tickets. But here we go. We got the
Chicago people in Chicago. My Latino friends would go crazy if Mystico is here. Oh my God.
So we got the selection special hosted by Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan this Wednesday. Does it say a time? It doesn't say a time. Sure so is this Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve? Isn't that pertinent information?
I would like to know. I would like to know.
But anyway, they're gonna reveal the names on Wednesday night. So I don't know. I honestly I'm having a hard time caring about the tournament.
They're not giving you a reason to care. What's there to care about? What is there? Boy, you know who cares about this tournament? New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
There's some dark rumors floating around the old Twitter sphere that maybe some companies aren't happy about this tournament and their titles being used. Maybe I don't know.
So I talked about this earlier today. Oh, by the way, earlier today, I'm starting a new thing where I'm just going to try to do news updates throughout the week. I can just use voice memos on my phone. It actually didn't sound bad. The show wasn't that good because I didn't really have my notes ready to go. I just kind of hit record and then I rambled. But it was, a rough draft of a new thing that I'm doing. I actually talked about potentially. So I think it was put out there by the Super J-Cast that
John Damon.
that New Japan Pro Wrestling was not really happy that the New Japan Strong title was on the line. Now, a good friend of ours that lingers in a certain spot said that this is not, he didn't believe that this is the case. So there are people out there saying that the opposite is true. So we do have to factor that in there. And other folks have saying that the Super J-Cast stuff guys, maybe they've gotten stuff wrong, but I don't know. I don't really know much about those guys. I know that they're on the same network as us, but I am not really familiar with their work. So they seem like they're plugged in.
They broke the Forbidden Door story.
Okay.
They said they had from 3 different sources, and I think our friend that lurks in the spot mainly has his sources in AEW. I don't know if they have sources in New Japan. So of course, I think the AEW says like everything is fine, everything is awesome. We watched that with Andy last night. He loved it. It's a great movie. Yeah, man. I don't know. I think this is the worst time in the history of AEW. I think right now is worse than Brawl Out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because at least during Brawl Out, the shows were still really good.
They were. That best of 7 series was great.
Yeah, and our podcast numbers were awesome during Brawl Out. So yeah, like if they could just do something like now, if we can get somebody to show up and just start slapping the hell out of each other backstage, that would be helpful to us. But
Andrade right now, seems like Andrade's ready to start throwing blows again. So we'll see.
Yeah, that guy's always mad. But
he's a malcontent.
So people have been saying that AEW is going the way of WCW for so long. And I just didn't buy it. And I think people were just saying it just to say it because they've been wanting AEW to fail. So that way they're right about something, right? Like we know some people from our former network, at least one guy from our former network would say stuff like that. Jim Cornette's been saying stuff like that for a long time. I just didn't buy it, but Full Gear, I was like, this is WCW. You're getting the whole WCW. You're getting a shitty angle for a main event, tons of interference, and then you're getting great matches on top of it, right? Like, I'll be honest, the Texas Death Match,
it's awesome.
up until Brian Cage interfered, I thought it was one of my favorite matches in AEW. But it was just like, and maybe because I watched it on delay, but I didn't know the Brian Cage thing was happening. I didn't really pay attention to what people were saying. It was just so awesome. And then Brian Cage comes in and is like, he was unnecessary. Like this whole thing was awesome. Like I liked Prince Nana getting involved, but Brian Cage, I was like, get him out of there. What are we doing?
The Brian Cage thing has gotten a lot more people tiffy than it's gotten me. It didn't bother me mainly because Cage and Page, oh boy, I love that, have history together. So
yeah,
for me,
it was just like another match with more interference. So we're just what we're getting. It's all fuckery.
You're right.
Yeah,
but that's why Tony Khan's promised us a tournament with no fuckery. How fucked up is this company that they have to tell you? Like, I don't know, man. I hate to be like, if this was my territory, this is what I would do. But I hate praising Eric Bischoff. It makes me feel so dirty. But I love what he said when he was coming up with Nitro. He's like, he watched Raw and said, this is what they do. This is what I can do.
Yeah.
Right. And he made in 1996, right? Monday Night Raw was the coolest show. 97 too. Monday Night Raw was the coolest wrestling show ever.
Yeah, it was.
No, Nitro. I'm sorry.
Nitro.
96 Nitro, excuse me, was the coolest wrestling show ever. So you're saying Monday Night Raw. Like Nitro was the coolest show ever for about 2 years. And then they started to lose it. Right.
Yeah.
And we're here now. Yeah.
So with Tony Khan saying the no interference thing, shouldn't that just be the norm?
Yeah, it should.
Right? Like why would you have to announce that? Like your stuff's gotten so bad that now you have to announce that that's okay, for this thing and this thing only, we're not going to have interferences. I'm like, but like how do you police that? It's a wrestling show. Like you can't control anything. You couldn't control Swerve going into Hangman's house and which is one of my favorite angles, by the way. I wrestling can be ridiculous and I'm okay with it. I thought that angle was great, but when you're talking like that and you're doing it on television in the context of the show, you're saying you're promising no outside interference. Why do you think that these 12 people and all of their friends, because everybody's got a faction, why do you think they're all going to adhere to that? Because they want to make the boss mad, but they interfere with every interview and every match that they have, right? So it's like I don't know. That just seems like a desperate attempt to me.
I think Matt Hardy and Pat Buck and Jimmy Jacobs and these guys are in Tony's ear. And to be honest, I don't think Brian Danielson's super not guilty of this either. I think all these
Yeah.
guys are saying this is what fans want. They want the music to play, so they turn their head. They want this, they want that. When it's the opposite is true. It's so weird because pro wrestling, it's still, even at all time, it still seems like pro wrestling has this content for its audience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they still think we're marks. They still think we're stupid. They still think we just won't appreciate wrestling. And they'll point to, well, look at WWE. But WWE is the only place where it works. Every other company that's tried to do what WWE does has failed miserably every time. Like it's just, well, this is pro wrestling. Just watch MMA if you don't want that. Well, dude, that's what most people have done. You can't compare. Like wrestling used to dominate MMA, not anymore.
Yeah, but so that's a very people that say that it's like very black and white. It's not a very nuanced. Yeah, it's not a very nuanced thing to say. It's like nobody's saying that we don't want it to be like bullshit. Like the Hangman Swerve thing was mostly BS, but we loved it. We want the cool characters. We want the awesome promos. We want two people like mad at each other to fight over something tangible, right? We don't want 100 title belts. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't want like hokey crap. We don't want the reason why Jon Moxley left WWE. Right, like the hokey stuff, right? Him coming out saying everybody stinks and this, and like that he was doing in WWE on his way out. Like, if I wanted that, I know where I could get that. AEW was supposed to be the opposite, and that's why I loved it so much and why I tuned in every single week.
You used a great word there, and it was cool.
Yeah,
right. That's why Swerve has a lot of popularity right now.
Oh yeah,
people look at him and think he's cool. That's why Hangman Page is something in this company. Like, I don't think he's a good promo. I think he cut the best promo of his life 2 weeks ago. I think there's an aura about Page that's cool, right? This is something this MJF character is not cool.
BOGO Max. Can we just start calling him BOGO Max? We're gonna get that over.
Okay, we're gonna get that. That was my thing. We'll make it a thing. BOGO Max is not cool. There's nothing cool. Like when he was the edgelord asshole, there was something about him that was, kind of dangerous, kind of like a badass, right? He was completely unlikable, but there was something in there that was, for a villain, kind of cool. Not all the time. Not all the
time. But now he's cosplaying as a 90s babyface, and I don't fucking care about it.
We already have a guy cosplaying as a 90s babyface on the other show, and he's one of the biggest stars in wrestling. Like, I don't need to see LA Knight in this company. That's what he's acting like, and he's not as good at it as LA Knight is.
No, he's better in the ring than LA Knight, and like when he wants to be, he's a better promo. But he's not a better '90s babyface character than LA Knight because LA Knight's been working that character for 20 years.
20 years, he's really good at it. This is what's amazing: is 5 years ago, the knock on MJF was he was an EC3 clone, but he couldn't. He could just talk. He couldn't work. That's what everybody said. Now it's the complete opposite. This guy's putting out great matches. I should have loved that Jay White match, but I couldn't get over all the bullshit. I can't get over it. Like, this guy's trying to kill himself doing flying cutters and elbows to the floor. Like, the sad part is he's doing this to win guys like us over. But he doesn't realize it's all the other bullshit that's detracting from it. If he just kept his fucking mouth shut or was an authentic person, a cool person, that would work, but he's not. He's so insecure. Like, it's interesting. The Roman Reigns character is remarkably insecure, and he masks it with all this, bravado. Whereas the Maxwell Jacob Friedman character is remarkably insecure and shows us he's remarkably insecure all the time. Like, this company has forgotten how to be cool because they're trying so hard to be cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And they're trying so hard to be cool in the eyes of WWE fans.
Yeah.
Like they think this is cool. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Attitude Era and Kurt Angle, they stole the ambulance and came back in, right? And that was cool at the time, but it's just been done before. It's just been done before. And so when AEW is doing it, I'm thinking, and it's their top baby face, and it's just super ridiculous. I'm just not into it.
No, and that's where that's kind of where we are right now. Is that there's nothing in this place feels real anymore. There's no authenticity. And I think Tony Storm does an all right job playing the character. I think it's too much now. I think when she first started doing this, it was fine, but now
It
it's
was
gone
great.
way
Yeah.
in the other it's gone way in the other direction. It's so phony, right?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the place, like Moxley said, you come here, you be real. You come here, you get to be yourself. You play your own music. That's gone. That's
Yeah.
gone. And that's like sad to me because this was the shot. This was the shot that pro wrestling had at doing something different on a major level. Like maybe this TNA reboot will be something special, but it's still going to be on Access. It's still going to, like, you know, like I said a couple weeks ago, if they go wild and double their audience, it's still 200,000 people, which is a little bit more than Collision got this week. But
yeah, they've broken that 200,000 mark before.
They have, which if you're AEW, it's pathetic, by the way. It's absolutely pathetic. But again, if you have McDonald's next to some off-brand burger chain, Hardee's or something like that, the line for McDonald's is going to be way longer.
Yeah.
You know, but if you have Chipotle next door, you know, now you got a choice. You know, I'd rather have a burrito bowl. You know, and like I think that's the problem. And we argued this for a long time. Fuck the casuals. This is why you have to fuck the casuals, because the casuals will abandon you in a heartbeat.
Yep. Yes. Well, I don't want to be on this topic too much. This is actually supposed to be our second topic, but we went right into it. We've been chatting about it like since, you know, over the weekend and then all day today. But what I really wanted to get into first of all, before we got sidetracked,
35 minutes into the show.
Yeah. What I wanted to get into, so the reason why we're here is because we want to talk about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Let me pull up the Observer here. So we actually did a special a couple of weeks ago where we had talked about our ballots that don't exist, but we still went ahead and we pretended as if we had ballots, and then we submitted those fake ballots, and it went nowhere. But I did send the video over to Dave Meltzer, so hopefully he watched it in order to give us a ballot one day. Well, now the results are in. We have 7 new selectees for the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. We have Rocket and Perez at 63%. We have Beauty Pair at 63 Rocket and Perez is 63.2%. Beauty Pair 63%. Sergeant Slaughter 62.9%. Jack and Jerry Briscoe 61.3%. Tomohiro Ishii 60.9%. God bless you, John Muse, for getting Ishii across the finish line there. Blue Panther out of Mexico, 60.6%, and George Kidd with an even 60%.
One vote, right? Wasn't George Kidd got it by 1 vote or something like that?
I think he did. So he's gonna, and then the guys we had some guys fall off the ballot, which I'll get into in a little bit. But what do you think about these the selectees, man?
We both were agreeing that Rock and Perez should be there. They're the first big draw tag team. And major draw tag team. So they had to be there. Both you and I spoke very highly of Sergeant Slaughter on our preview show. We both thought he should have been in. I did not see Jack and Jerry Briscoe going in, so that was a surprise. I'm gonna be honest with you. John Muse got this done with Tomohiro Ishii because he said it to us. He said to us in our group thread, and I said, nah, I don't see it. And then he sold me on it, and I'm pretty sure he sold you on it too. And between him and Jesse Collins also write an article. I think there was enough of the right people writing about Ishii where there's some people that are like mad that he got in, like legitimately upset that Tomohiro Ishii is in the Hall of Fame, which is weird to me. I don't know why you get upset about something like that.
They're mad because he doesn't check all 3 boxes, but if you blow away one of the boxes, you're in. Like so this is very much built off of the Baseball Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
There are some differences, but for the most part, it's the Baseball Hall of Fame. If you're a home run hitter and you hit 550 homers, but your batting average is like 200 and you don't really have any World Series rings, but because you hit 500 homers, you're going to get in, right? Like that's the threshold. If you're a pitcher and you get 300 wins, but you never won the World Series and you were never the MVP or the Cy Young, right? But you got 15 to 20 wins every single year, you're gonna get in. Or if you're like a second baseman that gets 3,000 hits, but you never won MVP, you're gonna get in. Tomohiro Ishii is one of those guys. He has far and away some of the best matches that you've ever seen in your life, and he's done it consistently for decades. And he got in based on match quality. He got in based on one thing. He's not the most famous. He's not the biggest draw. He was never the top guy in his promotion, but match quality got him in. It's one of the 3 boxes that gets you in. And so by that alone, he deserves to be in. And he got the votes, right?
You're a Niners guy. Like,
yeah.
Am I crazy when I say that kind of makes me think of Joe Montana? Joe Montana was a pretty good quarterback that played in a fantastic system, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like Bill Walsh's West Coast offense revolutionized offense in the early 1980s, and he became a superstar, with the right tools around him. Does he have that success if he's playing for, say, the Chicago Bears?
Yeah. And we'll never know, right? Because he was a third-round draft pick. Well, he was a third-round draft pick out of Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
He did go on to have success with the Kansas City Chiefs under Marty Schottenheimer, who was also a pretty good coach.
Also a Hall of Fame coach,
Yeah. So he did go over there, but look, why did he get in the Hall of Fame? He had a great coach. He had longevity. He won 4 Super Bowls, and when the game was on the line, he got it done. Right?
Every time.
But he didn't have the Dan Marino and Peyton Manning stat. He didn't have those stats. He didn't have the cannon arm. Now his footwork is probably better than all of them. And his ability to scramble and his ability to make decisions. He had, great passer ratings all throughout his career. He was, considered the best ever until Tom Brady took over. At that position, it's not about whether or not you throw 5,000 passing yards. It's about, can you get the W's? Can you lead your team when the game is on the line? And that's what he was able to do. And a lot of wrestlers are like that, right? And they, when it matters most, and Ishii is one of those guys in the G1, right? He is MVP almost every year because he has the best matches. In losing efforts, they typically make him lose a lot of those matches. But he is just a guy that you can count on to go out there and kill it every single time he's in there.
I'm telling you, my 7-year-old knows who Tomohiro Ishii is because the Dynamite was here last year and he had the match with Chris Jericho, right? And he remembers that chop fest that they had, and he still to this day, like, remember when Chris Jericho's chest was purple? Like, he's 7, and that sticks out to him. Like, that just tells me that someone is really, like, what is the job of a professional wrestler ultimately? Is to get the fans going in the matches. Right. Mm-hmm. We get so bogged down in all this other stuff that it's really easy to forget the match is the most important part. And Tomohiro with Ishii, you always know the match is going to be special. And like I said, he passed the 7-year-old test. So he belongs, man. He definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. I know people are mad about it, but boo fucking who.
Yeah. And if you don't want him to get in and you have a case to make for one of your favorites, right? Do the work. And by doing the work, that doesn't mean go into a Discord thread and say, hey, is this guy a Hall of Famer? And then let everybody do the work for you. Right. What you do is you actually go to do the research, go through the observers, go through Cage Match, take a look at what the house was whenever they were on top, right? How many main events have they been in? All of those things. Add that all up and then make your case. But don't get mad because somebody else did the work, went and made the case. And just because you don't think that somebody should get in based off of one criteria, which you're wrong. It's not your criteria. It's Dave Meltzer's criteria, and everybody voted on it. And this is the criteria. This is the way it is. Now, if you think it's a sham Hall of Fame, well, that's fine. Just don't fucking vote anymore and go do something else. Go vote on the Cage Match Hall of Fame. Go watch the WWE Hall of Fame, where they literally just pick the person every year based off of a specific need in that moment in time. Right?
Vince McMahon's driver is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, this is the most legitimate Hall of Fame in pro wrestling. There's nothing that even comes close. And as much as I respect the Cauliflower Alley, the things that they do for retired professional wrestlers, it's a charitable organization. They give out awards every single year for different categories. But there's no real voting, and they don't really bring everybody in on it. It's just kind of like a celebration every year, and I think it's awesome. And you know what? I like the WWE Hall of Fame, by the way. I don't think it's like a legitimate Hall of Fame, but I like when people break their bodies down and they get celebrated once a year, right? Like, I thought it was cool to see the Bushwhackers go in the Hall of Fame, not because they were a great tag team, but because they, spent years out there breaking their bodies down, and they got to go in front of a big crowd long after their fame was over to be celebrated in front of their fans, in front of their peers, and in front of the new generation of pro wrestling. I think that stuff's cool. So I'm not trying to shit on anything. I'm just saying this is the most legitimate. It closely resembles the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the criteria is the criteria. And if you want to change the criteria, submit a dissertation, right? Do a case study about why you think the Japanese wrestlers shouldn't get in. why they shouldn't get their votes shouldn't count the same as Americans. I think you're silly, but do the work.
So like, it's funny to talk about the WWE one, because like the WWE Hall of Fame isn't really respected in our circles, but who really digs the WWE Hall of Fame? The wrestlers.
Yes.
Like, they
Yeah.
treat it like it matters. So, it has something different. This is more of, like I said, for us, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many workers get excited about the WWE Hall of Fame. And like you said, like, do the work. Campaigning is perfectly legal in a democracy, right? And this
Yeah.
is a democratic process. And I'll be honest with you, I was of the mind that Bobby Davis should have gotten voted in.
Same
I
here.
am inspired by John. I plan on doing the work next year to get Bobby
Yes.
Davis the preeminent manager, the guy who defined what a pro wrestling manager should be. I plan on doing the work next year to get this guy elected because I think it's necessary.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
and for some people it could just be a blind spot because Bobby Davis came out before any of us were ever even watching pro wrestling.
born.
And there's not really a ton of Bobby Davis footage out there. So um I think but it takes just somebody doing actual research. Now, we did read a Jesse Collins article, and I thought it was a great article. We read
Jesse
most
did
of
a
that
good
on
job.
the air. Yeah, he did a really good job, but
We need more.
maybe
We need more of that.
we need to get more in depth and to make
Mhm.
sure that he gets on the ballot. I'm actually running through the numbers right now, and I'll go ahead and just pull it back up. Hold on. So him not getting in surprising me. I think the one that surprised me the most was I just figured that the Young Bucks were gonna get in.
I think
I didn't
everybody
really
thought
see
that.
I didn't really see a good argument against them unless you just don't like them, I guess.
That's the argument.
Um yeah, but they got 55.1%. Paul Orndorff at 55.4%. That one surprised me too. I thought that he would
He
get it.
he belongs. I think what hurts Paul Orndorff is the comeback, right? Because he
Yeah.
was a mid card guy in the comeback. But I mean, that's like an amazing comeback story, right? I think
Yeah.
that's another guy. I think that we hopefully in a year we have a bigger platform, right? And we utilize what we do best, which is the video podcast form,
Yeah.
right? I think we need to do some like specials, like special Mike and JD, videos on those two candidates in particular, right? And
Yeah.
then do what Tony
Because
Khan says, put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, because the Young Bucks are getting in. Okay.
Yeah, that's
I
gonna
don't
happen.
think there's any doubt there. I'm hoping that Paul Orndorff will get in, but maybe we need to do the work and
Mhm.
we need to push Orndorff. We need to push Bobby Davis. Roman Reigns is going to get in eventually. He was
Eventually.
52.4%. I think as the dust settles and the smoke is cleared, all that horse shit, I think eventually he'll get in. Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith. That one they might be borderline for a long time, unfortunately, because they don't really have the longevity as a team, and Dynamite Kid's already in the Hall of Fame, and I think people are holding Davey Boy Smith's singles run against him in this category.
Because Davy Boy's single was nowhere near as good as Davy Boy, and Davy had some good stuff, but the stuff that you remember of Davy Boy, he was just a big steroid dude who didn't really, move well. But if you go back to '86 and stuff like that, Davy Boy was a good part of that team, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was fantastic. Johnny Rougeau, he didn't make it at
Shocked.
47%.
Shocked didn't make it.
I think Pat LaPraz got to work this one. Maybe we need to reach out to him and get him on the show next year to sell Johnny Rougeau to the masses. Big Daddy, there was actually a lot of people, Americans voting for Big Daddy in this category, even though they don't really know anything about the European and the rest of the world vote. They were just voting for Big Daddy because I think it was going to make Alan Blackstock happy.
That's exactly because everyone loves Alan Cheap Shots Twitter, and but that guy does the work. He's trying to campaign, so I can't fault him on that.
Hey.
Same with hey, you heard that Dave said he voted for Ted Turner and talked about how influential Ted Turner was. When I suggest that, you shit on me. And again, that's a guy that I think that belongs in the Hall of Fame because he's the second most important person in wrestling in the 20th century. Yes, sir.
So Dave said it?
Dave said it.
Okay, now I'm in. No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah. You know what? Look, I don't really have like a strong case against him, but it was kind of what Dave was saying on his show. The knock on Ted Turner is that he never actually worked in wrestling. You know, the promoters paid him to air the TV show for a long time, and then he bought WCW, and then WCW crapped out. He just, and like he never really thought about wrestling. I'm not like dead set against him going in. He was very, very, very important to the history of pro wrestling. One of the most important figures in all of pro wrestling. I don't think we have modern wrestling without him. There's just other people I would just put ahead of him.
He saved wrestling from being a monopoly for 15 years.
Yeah, that's true. He did. Absolutely.
Like he kept Ted Turner single-handedly kept the fire burning for just the entire industry rolling over for Vince McMahon only 4 years into his march. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that deserves honor from wrestling fans.
Yeah.
He single-handedly launched the boom, by the way. The boom doesn't happen without TBS.
Yeah. Ted Turner was at 43.1%. CM Punk, 44%. I think CM Punk's going to get in eventually. I think as time goes by, people will see him as a influential figure and a big time draw. And he's had a lot of great matches. I think that he gets in eventually. I think a lot of AEW supporters are a bit salty at him right now, and they did not vote for him this year.
I think if he gets back in WWE and has a good close to his career, he can kind of blow over some stuff and then repair his image a little bit. I think he has taken a big hit over the last year. He's been a very divisive personality, and mostly by his own doing.
Yeah.
Like he should be the patron saint of everybody who doesn't like WWE, and he was for a long time until he made some, questionable moves in the last year. Everyone over there has, to be honest with you. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike Tenay, that one's going to be a tough one because of his TNA run. People don't really value TNA, but we talked about this on our other special. He was the lead announcer for the number 2 World's Pro Wrestling show for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And none of that, he was influential long before that with all the work that he did in WCW and on the, not only the newsletter, but he had his radio show out of Vegas and all that stuff and the research that he's put in and educated people on. I think he should go in eventually. It just might take a little bit more time.
Might take a little bit more time. I think if TNA has a comeback, then it's well loved. I think it'd be all right. The dog, kind of dropping hurts.
Yeah.
I think he's ashamed that he's not in.
Well, his run was so short, but damn, was it a good run? He, it did, and it was had that out of New Orleans, all the Superdome sellouts and things like that. But he flamed out so quickly. By the time he got to WWF, he was shot.
Yeah, but he
still had some fun stuff. But.
He was the number 2 babyface there for a good 2 years.
But
right?
he was having Big Daddy level matches. He was hardly moving, and he would just do the headbutt. It was real hokey,
But nobody had good matches in WWF, with the exception of Randy Savage and Rick Steamboat, and maybe Greg Valentine, Orndorff. Like, there's like 4 dudes that had good matches over there. Tito 5. But I mean, that's it. Like for the most part, WWF, especially in that era, was all about the circuses coming to town.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Vince didn't want you to have good matches. He wanted you to get over. He thought there was a big difference there. So I think after the Iron Claw comes out, I
bet they're in.
Kevin, David, and Kerry, I think they're going to get a ton of votes because not only is Iron Claw coming out, I think a televised wrestling promotion is going to bring in the Von Erich kids, the young ones that were just in MLW. They're not that great, but they look good and they can brawl. And I think somebody's going to bring them in. And Kevin, who's been all over television in Texas, and he was just at the Cowboys game being honored, I think he's going to make his rounds. The Rock was just talking about him on Joe Rogan's podcast last week, talking about the Von Erichs and saying that he, was a kid and he was in the ring with those guys when he was like a little boy, and talking about him on Joe Rogan. And then he was talking about them on Twitter. I think that's going to be helpful to their cause. So. I think they are going to be a lot closer next year.
If the movie, if the movie is an Oscar contender, which they're shooting for, that's what A24 is going for with this thing. That's why you put, Jeremy Allen White in something. He's a really good young actor. I think that people get behind it. with MJF being a quote unquote executive producer, the most bullshit title in Hollywood, producer on this film. It is. It's a bullshit title.
It is.
I'm
Yeah.
shocked that they're not doing something right now with them, but that could change. I fully anticipate the Von Erich, some type of Von Erich presence around Christmas time in AEW.
Yeah. Yeah. So do I. Man, Sputnik Monroe, he not getting the votes. He's 32.1%.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. I don't think enough people realize what he as a human meant for a burgeoning civil rights movement. But I mean, at some point, it does check the box on any. I mean, like, look at it this way: he's got more votes than Randy Orton.
Yeah. Well, no, he has 101 votes. Randy Orton had
Excuse me.
104.
I was reading that wrong.
Sputnik's in a different category. You
Yeah,
don't get to pick as many people in the Sputnik's category. Morris Siegel at 31.4%. I just think that people just never
he
heard of the
belongs.
guy.
Yeah, that's his
Yeah,
problem.
I just don't think they understand that he was promoting one of the top territories for over 30 years, and they were doing it successfully.
Mhm.
But people just when they think of Houston wrestling, they think of Paul Bosch and not Morris Siegel, unfortunately.
TV.
Yeah, TV. But yeah, Randy Orton, he's probably one of those guys. He'll get in eventually. He's like a 3,000 hit guy. He's gonna get in. But yeah, other than that, no real surprises. I did like the class. I was disappointed that some of the people that I really wanted to go in, like for instance, like I voted for Roman Reigns, but the fact that he's not in, I'm not like emotionally bothered by that. You know, like Young Bucks, I thought they would go in. They're so close that they're going to get in soon.
Roman.
So that's not that big of a. I think.
Roman
Go
went from
ahead.
31% to like 50 something percent. Roman had
Yeah,
a gigantic uptick. If
yeah.
next year is like this year, I bet he's in next year.
Yeah, and I think somebody needs to do the work on Roman, both positive and negative, because I've
Mhm.
seen some articles that came out on several websites about Roman not getting in, but they didn't really like tie it to like actual statistics, right? They just said that he's not as big a draw as John Cena. So you're saying he's the second biggest. Okay. So but if you do the math and you got him on headlining the shows. He's the biggest headlining act that there is. Now I get it. WWE is the draw,
Mhm.
but he also is a draw, and WWE has him as their top guy for a long time. I think he's a shoe, and I think he eventually will get there.
He's not Big Daddy. We can't treat Roman like
No,
he's Big Daddy. Is he a
no.
slam dunk? I don't think he's a slam dunk.
I
Like,
in my eyes, he's a slam dunk. I think
oh,
people just undervalue WWE because
they
WWE
do.
is this machine. They undervalue the
Mhm.
machine. It's like, okay, well, you're there. Now you have automatic tick against you because that's where you're at. Because you don't like if you didn't have that name, you wouldn't draw. And some people have to go outside of that system to go prove it to the observer readers. I just don't think that that's necessary, in my opinion.
The argument I think is interesting with Roman is if he got way more chances than anybody else, and eventually
Yeah.
they made it work, but it took near a decade to do it.
Yeah. But them's
Right?
the breaks. It did work,
Them's the
right?
breaks. It did
Yeah.
work. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, like, but it's only worked for like a year. You know, like he's only really been a draw this year.
Well, business was going down, but
Yes,
like we've talked about with Sting, it's very difficult to overcome bad creative,
it is very
right?
difficult to
It's
overcome bad
very
creative.
and I felt like they just put him in impossible scenarios but create like the creative machine is they finally got something that clicked and things are up. But if you take a look at like statistically, the every WrestleMania that he's ever headlined is the number one show that year, right? You can only talk about your era and and what you've done in your company and your
Mhm.
era. And he's been the top guy the entire time during down times and then now back up on the upswing. Just like I don't hold Sting accountable for the way WCW drew in the 90s. I'm not going to hold Roman Reigns accountable for the downward spiral
Mhm.
because I just think that was just a very out of touch old man running that company, kind of putting it in a death spiral.
But how long did it take Sting to get into the Hall of Fame?
Took a long time, and I
Yeah.
felt like too long. But again, I grew up with Sting,
Me too.
right? So like to me, he was like an iconic figure. I felt like he was one of the top 5 stars of the '90s, but people just look at it differently because he wasn't as good a draw as Hogan, and he wasn't as good a draw as Flair. I'm like, okay, well, who was? Well,
What?
nobody, right? So you can only you can't hold if that's the standard, then nobody else gets in, right?
Mhm. I had a thought while we were talking about this. All this talk about Roman, and the crowd not accepting him. Remember that when that was a big thing when the
Yeah,
crowds are openly rejecting Roman Reigns?
they did it to Cena too, by the way. But go ahead.
They did with Cena too. I'm one of those guys
Yeah,
that checked out with
yeah.
Cena when Cena
Same,
became
same
the
here.
man. Um, are we seeing that with MJF?
Yes.
I only bring this up because you and I have both seen a tremendous uptick of online support for Swerve Strickland, and people
Hmm.
want to see him become the guy. But you and I have both heard some scuttlebutt of where the title plans for AEW are going for the next 6 months. By the way, I hate them.
Yeah.
No spoilers, but the fan base is letting you know very vociferously that they want Swerve Strickland as the world champion.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you guys right now, you're not going to get that in the near future.
Yeah. Not
Is
not
that
not anytime soon.
you're going to get, I'm telling you, Max is not going anywhere at the top of the card.
Mhm.
Are we going to see a new Roman situation in AEW, the company that was supposed to listen to the fan base?
I think we're kind of already seeing it. The people that are showing up are still cheering him. He's very much over to the people that are in the audience.
The
There's
BOGOs.
just they're the BOGOs. They're just less of them now, and they're spending less money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're still in with him. It's only a matter of time before they start to flip that. Now, if they do switch him, will Tony have the leadership skills, which he's proven he does not
Does
have,
not.
but would he have the leadership skills to then make a decision to flip him heel and go in a different direction? I personally think that he needs to lose that title as soon as possible, get it on somebody young and fresh, and he needs to go away for a while. I think the devil needs to be Adam Cole. Adam Cole needs to cost him the title to someone young and fresh, and then Adam Cole goes and heals and then comes back, and then MJF takes off a few months. We've seen him do that before, and when he did do that before, he was bigger
over.
than ever.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I think. I think he's just, we were complaining for a long time that we weren't getting enough of him on TV, that he was lazy. Well, now it's too much, and he's got too much power. He's in every segment. The whole show is built around him. And look, and we discussed it on here, and you brought up the point, like, yes, they're trying to make him into Steve Austin. They're trying to build around him, and then eventually it's going to lead to something. But what we've seen is the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
what we've seen is Collision doing 180,000. I get that it was on Friday as opposed to Saturday, but still, that's alarming.
You gave your audience a choice. Do you
Yes.
want to watch Roman Reigns or do you want to watch MJF? And they overwhelmingly said Roman Reigns.
Yeah. So, and I don't really like excuses. So the reason why they drew such a bad number is because they didn't give people enough good stuff to watch for them to make it a priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give people a reason to prioritize their television show. WWE SmackDown was basically unaffected by what was going on TB or
100%.
TNT. Yeah. So, it's not working. He's oversaturated. Nobody cares anymore. We're all pretty much apathetic, and we're kind of getting sick of it. I could see it going the way of Roman Reigns. Now, WWE smartly, because for years people rejected Cena, right? And then it wasn't until Cena went away for a while and did a couple movies and then came back that he was actually like the babyface legend, right? Because he was getting rejected for a long time before then. It wasn't until Roman went away, come back as a heel, the thing that they wouldn't do with Cena. Roman comes back as a heel, and then all of a sudden he's over, right? And it just took that. It just took the bosses finally figuring it out, right? Like, I'm sure Roman wanted to be heel for a long time. He was probably tired of working against the grain. He just didn't have the authority to do that. And eventually they get to it, and then now he's the biggest star in the world.
So look at it too with Cena. His last main event, like true main event run, Brock Lesnar murdered him. Remember that SummerSlam 2014? And he hasn't been a main eventer ever since. When Cena kind of did his when Cena won everybody over, it was when he was the US champ doing that open challenge thing and just having great matches.
Great matches.
Not when he single-handedly destroyed the Nexus.
Yeah.
People hated that.
Me too.
Right?
I hated it.
Everyone.
Yeah. And Cena was like, they were force feeding us Cena for so long. It started in the mid 2000s. By 2011, we were so sick of him, and all we wanted was CM Punk. That's what we wanted. CM Punk. That's all we wanted. And then they finally gave it to us, and of course they jacked it up. Of course, they jacked it up in 2011,
And
but they gave
that's why we have AEW.
yeah.
It's the John Cena effect, right? You had
Mhm.
all these wrestling, the John Cena and Roman effect. WWE created this contentious relationship with their fan base, right? They made their because again, you'd show up for shows. I'm guilty as charged. Chant CM Punk at a WWE
Yeah.
show when you weren't happy with something, right? But they never turned. Vince is so stubborn. He never turned away. He just did his thing, and it wound up to the point where WWE was tarping off a lot of their crowds.
Yeah.
Right? Remember the Fiend versus Seth Rollins? What a disaster that was. That was months before AEW Dynamite launched, right?
Mhm.
They created this window where someone could step in and do something. And for a long time, AEW was the company and listened to the fan base. We're doing this, we're doing that. Now Tony has surrounded himself with these WWE guys who are telling him, no, man, this is what Vince did, and look at Vince. And they're
Yeah.
ignoring the reality of things. And we're creating the
Mhm.
exact same powder keg. Except now the fan base, no, now the fan base is like, well, WWE is better now. Fuck you. Or I'll just go back to watching New Japan. Fuck you. Right?
Yeah.
AEW doesn't have decades of accrued interest and doesn't have the built-in fan base that won't go anywhere. The Julian Weekses of the world who, will support AEW or support WWE no matter what. The AEW doesn't have a lot of those people. Amy Nevity tries to be that person. Sorry, former boss. But I mean, like when she tweeted out MJF is the greatest AEW world champion ever, I wanted to throw my phone at the wall and be like, I cannot believe I just read a real human being wrote those words.
She actually wrote that? That's
She
hilarious.
actually wrote that after his match. And MJF is the greatest world champion ever. I'm like, I expect by the way, Excalibur, I'm starting to hate him. All his bullshit, Doug. I'm growing to hate the AEW announcing team with the exception of Taz.
See, I was way ahead of you on that. I was never a fan of Excalibur. I think he just over enunciates. He just comes across as contrived. I feel like he's doing a Mauro Ranallo impression, and Mauro Ranallo does everything naturally, right? Like just him. He's just constantly like that. I feel like Excalibur is just trying to be Mauro.
I think we've seen the evolution of Sky Blue. Like Joe did a great rant about that. But when I heard that and she stepped on the hat, I was like, at that point, I'm like, X, you're so full of shit. Oh, the devil has been striking at people close to MJF. He beat up Jay White. Like they are so fucked up right now. And I feel bad for X because he's told he has to read these things. But like if you have no spine, if you're gonna be, and I love Tony Schiavone, but if you're gonna be 2000 Tony Schiavone, fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like what happened, man? That's so crazy.
I don't know. We were talking about the Hall of Fame, and then we went right back to AEW.
Oh, I just meant them.
Yeah,
that's my fault. Yeah. Fucking BOGO Max.
Yeah, BOGO Max. Hey, everybody, tweet BOGO Max. Use the hashtag BOGO Max.
Put in the title. Redo the title.
Yeah, I'm gonna redo the title. It'll be is BOGO Max killing AEW? And then we'll do Hulkamania Max, Maximania. That's the new title. And then we'll do the dash, the upward dash thing. Yeah. And then we'll do Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame selectees. That's what we'll do.
I love it. So we did a Mike and JD show.
Essentially a Mike and JD show, yeah. But I just really wanted to show some appreciation for our Patreon subscribers. Yeah. We cranked out a lot of content this weekend. Not only did we have our main show for the Voice of Wrestling Network that they got here before everybody else, the audio anyway. They got Brace for Impact, which was done on Saturday before anybody else got to check it out. JD Oliva Project live right after the freaking AEW Full Gear. Yeah, then you released the first chapter of Gaijin, your new book.
Yep, I did today.
Which was really cool. Yeah, I hope everybody gets a chance to check that out and provide feedback too. By the way,
want feedback? Yeah,
Tell JD what you think.
I trust you guys.
Yeah, and then I did a quick news thing about 10 minutes earlier today. It's just like a test run that I'm doing. I'm going to keep trying to feed you guys content while we continue to try to build the YouTube. I want to make sure that this is our home base, that we provide everything here.
Mike, I don't know many Patreon platforms that are providing as much consistent content as we're trying to produce week in and week out to help support the guys that have been with us. Like we grew a nice supporter base right away, and I feel like we owe them, right? Because who are we? We were like the C team at Fight Game Media. Right. And now we're on our own and we're with, Voices is giving us a nice platform to help grow. And I just want to. I know you and I both feel the same way. We just want to say thanks and just keep giving you guys money or just keep giving you guys stuff that you're paying money for. Like we appreciate
Yeah.
it greatly.
Yeah, we do appreciate you guys. I'm very thankful for you guys. So I hope that you have a very happy Thanksgiving. We are not going to be doing anything on Thursday night. So we are going to be enjoying our families, which I hope you guys will be too. And then come this probably Friday or Saturday, probably maybe Saturday, I'm going to be doing a Brace for Impact. So there is no episode of Impact this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch I think like a 2.5 hour video that I believe Garrett Kidney put together about the history of the aces and eights, and I'm gonna watch that.
Why?
And from beginning, well, because much like everything in TNA, I liked the beginning, and then the end got convoluted and shit the bed. And I'm gonna check it out. Because sometimes when hindsight is 2020, right? And sometimes like you get nostalgia for stuff. I want to know like if it's still bad. And if it is, I'm going to talk about it. But there might be some stuff that I'm like, okay, I thought this sucked then, but it was kind of funny now. You know what I mean? Like as you get away from it, because TNA was always clouded in chaos. So even when they did do good stuff, like I thought it was stupid because 15 other things on the show were already pretty stupid. So just much like the death match the other night, like I loved that match, but because every match already had interference, I was like, I'm not interested in this interference. Like, stop it.
Fair.
Quit it. But so yeah, I'm gonna watch that, and then the following week, and we're gonna close out here in a sec, JD. The following week, I think Impact's gonna do an IPWF, so I might check out a little bit of that. But I'm actually gonna do I'm gonna do a podcast about the Main Event Mafia because again, I think Garrett, our colleague at Voices of Wrestling, put out a full history of the Main Event Mafia, and I'm gonna check that out and talk about it. So, and of course, whatever news comes down the pike.
I'm going to put chapter 2 of Gaijin up on Friday, I think. Friday or Thursday. No one's gonna be checking out Thursday. It's Thanksgiving. So yeah, Friday I'm gonna put that up. And I'm off this weekend, so I'm probably no wrestling for us over the weekend. We don't make the kids make weight over Thanksgiving. Made that mistake before. So it makes me miserable more than anybody else. So because I got to be up cutting weight with them. So I'm probably gonna do a JD Oliva project. We're gonna see how I'm probably going to do a JD Oliva project talking about taking Andy to the show on Wednesday. Cause like taking my son to these shows has been one of the best things as a dad. We've been to 5 AEW shows now together over the last 2 years. So this will be number 6 for us. And it's a great father-son bonding time for me and my guy. And, I'm probably going to talk about that and we'll see how I feel. Cause this could be my last AEW show for a while as far as going as a fan, because I don't like the promoter telling me to put my money where my mouth is while he's offering me BOGOs.
Yeah. But you know what? I think I'm also want to be thankful for MJF for making it possible for you to do BOGO tickets.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Max. Thank you,
BOGO Max. God, I'm going to tweet that. That's great. That's good stuff, Mike.
Yeah. Good stuff. JD's a genius for coming up with BOGO Max. I think people already steal it, hashtag it, but please, at one point, attribute it to us. I beg you.
I was thinking about making a sign, but I'm a grown ass man. I can't do that.
Well, give it to your kid. Make him do it. No, don't do that to Andy.
Security taking a sign away from a 7-year-old.
I know.
That's something you talk about in therapy.
Yeah. But hey, guys, I really appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you get to enjoy some good food and some family time. And we will be back at some point. Individually, we'll be back doing some stuff on the Patreon this weekend. So until next time, mahalo.